As of 2021 in the United States, about 85% of people use the internet on a daily basis. And that means a lot of people have a lot of opportunities to be, well, a different version of themselves. Because to some extent, everyone behaves a little differently online than they do in the physical world. But some people, like Jamal, take their online behavior a bit too far. Offline, Jamal is kind, likable, and sort of shy. But online, easygoing Jamal transforms into an agent of mayhem. At Agent Mayhem, actually. And Agent Mayhem's favorite online activity is posting movie spoilers on social media the same day the movie comes out. Which is the worst. Jamal knows he's ruining a fun experience for lots of people. But his friends at school think the spoilers are hilarious. And even though they don't know that Jamal is Agent Mayhem, Jamal still gets a major ego boost when they read his comment threads aloud at lunch. The safety of being behind a screen has gone to Jamal's head. And the truth is, he isn't the only one. Many of us behave differently online than we do offline, including when we're communicating with other people. And just like we've seen with many other types of communication, we can identify patterns that guide this behavior and help us understand ourselves and others better. When we interact with others online or offline, our choices affect real people and our relationships with them. So it's really important to think before we speak or type. I'm Cassandra Ryder, and this is Study Hall Intro to Human Communication. Unless you're a stickler about movie spoilers, Jamal's trolling is ultimately pretty harmless. But it's also out of character, because Jamal would never ruin someone's day like that offline. But even though it seems random, Jamal's behavior is not out of the ordinary. Communication and behavior experts like psychologist John Suhler have come up with theories like the online disinhibition effect to explain why people behave differently online than they do offline. According to the online disinhibition effect, we feel less restrained when we're communicating online on social media, message boards, and more versus offline. We can dig into this term a little more. In psychology, disinhibition is a pattern of impulsive behavior that violates social norms or expectations for how people should behave and interact with others in society. And because we can sort of hide in online spaces, we feel less pressure to stick to the same social norms that we follow when we're communicating face-to-face. Which is why Jamal posts movie spoilers online instead of yelling them out at a movie theater. He doesn't want to face a mob of angry moviegoers in real time. Now, according to Suhler's theory, there are two types of online disinhibition. Benign disinhibition refers to online behaviors that promote good stuff, like generosity, kindness, and helpfulness. Like if you've ever given advice to a stranger but you would never speak up in person, you've engaged in benign disinhibition. On the other hand, toxic disinhibition is when someone acts in negative ways online. That includes using technology to repeatedly scare and shame others, which is also called cyberbullying. It could also be catfishing, which is when someone creates a fake online persona to lure others into a relationship, and trolling, which involves posting inflammatory messages to provoke others. And when people engage in online hate speech, they share posts and comments that attack people on the basis of their identity, such as race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, disability, or gender. And that's also toxic disinhibition. We have different classifications, but all forms of negative online behavior are more than just words on a screen. The negative things we do and say online don't stay online. They spill over into the offline world and can impact our lives in big and small ways. So if you're made fun of online for your love of low-budget horror movies, you may get self-conscious about talking about it in real life and just not bring it up again. Basically, engaging in benign or toxic disinhibition is one way we can share parts of our identity that we don't feel comfortable revealing in the offline world. And there are several aspects of online spaces that make expressing ourselves and communicating with others feel really different and encourage us to express otherwise hidden parts of who we are. In fact, in his online disinhibition effect theory, Suhler defines 6 aspects of online spaces that make us feel more free to express ourselves. For instance, online spaces can offer anonymity, which allows us to hide some or all of our true identity from other people. We can create usernames, email addresses, and social media profiles that keep our real identities hidden. Anonymity is actually one of the main factors that drives the online disinhibition effect, because it makes us feel like our offline identity is totally separate from who we are online, And it can lead us to engage in both benign and toxic disinhibition. For instance, if Jamal wants to explore his secret obsession with cheesy romance reality shows without his friends finding out, though they're totally missing out because it's obviously the best genre, he could chat with fellow reality superfans in an anonymous online forum. This is benign disinhibition, driven by anonymity. But if Jamal creates a fake social media profile to widely share movie spoilers and ruin the experience for everyone else, his anonymity enables toxic disinhibition. But even when we aren't anonymous online, there are still parts of who we are and how we behave that are hidden from others, which is another one of Suhler's 6 aspects of online spaces that encourages us to express ourselves, called invisibility. There's a degree of invisibility in every online interaction because we aren't physically present with others. That means our nonverbal cues like facial expressions, hand gestures, and eye contact aren't always visible. It also means online invisibility protects us from the full scope of other people's reactions, which makes us feel less vulnerable and more open to share our ideas, beliefs, and identities. In fact, the invisibility we have in online spaces makes us more likely to engage in self-disclosure, which is when we share personal information with others. As long as we don't reveal stuff like our social security number or address, using online invisibility to increase our self-disclosure with others is okay. It can even help us create new relationships and form stronger bonds in relationships we already have. But because we're communicating without nonverbal cues, invisibility can also cause misunderstandings and conflict. For instance, say Jamal is at a midnight movie premiere for Wild Hearts Never Say Always. And sure enough, he posts spoilers online as soon as the movie ends. When the responses start flooding in, he sees his friend Kareem post a thumbs down emoji in the comments. Jamal responds with a rolling on the floor laughing emoji, thinking that Kareem also thinks the movie is terrible. But it turns out he's mad that Jamal's alter ego, Agent Mayhem, spoiled a movie he really wanted to see. Online invisibility means that Jamal can't read Kareem's nonverbal cues, so he thinks Kareem is in on the joke when he's actually super upset. Invisibility gives Jamal the freedom to share his ideas, but it also harms his relationship with Kareem because he can't respond to Kareem's emotions appropriately, which means that invisibility can build and break our connections with others. Another factor at play here is another of Suhler's 6 aspects of online spaces called asynchronicity, which is an aspect of online tools like email, chats, instant messaging, and comment threads that allows us to communicate with others without interacting with them in real time. In offline, face-to-face communication, there's a continuous flow of messages back and forth between people, and we have to respond to immediate feedback on the things we do and say, which creates an incentive for following social norms while we communicate. In asynchronous online communication, we don't have that in-the-moment face-to-face response time getting us to follow social norms. And because we don't have to deal with the immediate consequences of breaking social norms online like we do offline, we're more likely to say something that's contentious. After his comment on Jamal's spoiler post, Kareem starts posting all over social media about how terrible Agent Mayhem is, and that he's really mad at him for ruining Wild Hearts Never Say Always, because he's been looking forward to seeing it for months. So Jamal takes a beat, because he's not totally sure how to respond to Kareem's feelings in the moment. And he feels kind of bad about his chaotic online behavior, which he thought was funny, until he's faced with real disapproval from someone he cares about. So while anonymity, invisibility, and asynchronicity prompted him to be hurtful before and give in to toxic disinhibition, now, because of asynchronicity, Jamal can take some time to think about how to respond to Kareem in a way that shows he's truly sorry. This is another example of benign disinhibition, because using asynchronicity to think through how we're going to express our feelings helps us be kind and considerate of how others feel. Seeing the error of his ways, when Jamal finally logs on to read the comments from all his haters, he imagines their reaction in his head. He pictures people yelling at their screens and shaking their fists in frustration. Imagining how other people online look, act, and speak without actually seeing them on screen is known as solipsistic introjection. Solipsistic introjection is the 4th aspect Suhler identifies about online spaces, and we use it to add context to our text-based online interactions. It's kind of like when we're reading a book with no pictures and we imagine the story unfolding in our heads. But when we're communicating online, this imagined context can sneakily lead us to act in ways we wouldn't normally. Since we can't see other people's nonverbal cues online, we imagine their tone, volume, facial expressions, and gestures. Then we use what we imagine to make choices about how we'll act and react during communication. But because these are imagined interactions with a persona we created, it's actually more like we're having a dialogue with ourselves. And when we talk to ourselves in our heads, we tend to say things that we wouldn't necessarily say to other people. Like, he has toothpaste on his shirt. Awkward. Or, this is the most boring class I've ever taken. Ultimately, solipsistic introjection convinces us that we can carry on a conversation with others in a way that's similar to our inner dialogue. Because when we imagine personas for other people online that are just in our heads, we start to see them as an extension of ourselves. And we might share really personal information or strong opinions that we'd be slower to put out there in a face-to-face conversation. No matter how imaginative we are, the character we create for other people online isn't a direct reflection of the real person. Which is why it's important to give others space to rewrite the characters we've created for them by sharing their real reactions and feelings during online communication. But separating fact from fiction can be tough when we spend lots of time online. In fact, according to the criminal lawyer Emily Finch, many people see their online life as a game or story with rules and norms that don't apply to everyday life, which leads us to become even more disinhibited. The fifth aspect of online disinhibition is the belief that our online life is totally unrelated to our offline life, which is known as dissociative imagination. Because we can get up and walk away from our online interactions anytime, it's easy to feel like they're happening in a separate reality. For instance, Jamal feels like posting movie spoilers is his own personal comedy show. And when he takes the mic, or keyboard, whether people are heckling or applauding him in the comments, Jamal's just happy to be the center of attention. When the show's over, he shuts the computer. And because his online life feels totally separate from his offline life, Jamal feels like he can keep posting spoilers and avoid any real consequences. Which brings us to Suhler's sixth aspect of online disinhibition, status and authority. Because we're often anonymous or invisible online, status and authority are less visible too. We can't see things like badges and uniforms online, and most offline authority figures don't have much control over our online behavior. So people also take advantage of the absence of authority figures online to engage in toxic disinhibition. Cyberbullying, hate speech, and spreading misinformation happen more easily online because authority figures have less power over what people say. For instance, Jamal's mom threatens to ground him and take his phone if he doesn't stop trolling people with movie spoilers. Even if she does, she can't really stop him from posting movie spoilers. He'll just head to the library after school and post from there. So the authority Jamal's mom has over him in real life doesn't translate online. But between his friend Kareem's reaction and his mom's disappointment, Jamal rethinks his actions and how they might hurt other people. He decides to use anonymity to ask for advice about how he can apologize for upsetting so many people. Through benign disinhibition, Jamal has conversations with people online about how he can be a better friend and movie fan. Even though most of us aren't movie-spoiling agents of mayhem, anyone who spends time on the internet experiences the online disinhibition effect to some degree. That means we've all probably experienced at least one of Suhler's 6 aspects of online disinhibition at some point in our online lives. But because our personalities are unique, online disinhibition doesn't affect everyone in the same way. But no matter how different we are, understanding the principles that guide how we act helps us have more control over how we communicate. Like, when we engage in benign disinhibition and open ourselves to new, positive behaviors, we can form new relationships, process our emotions, and even help others. And by imagining how our actions might affect others and using self-control, we can guard ourselves against toxic disinhibition too. And when we're aware of how Suhler's 6 aspects shape our online selves, we can tame our inner agents of mayhem and instead be forces for good. Thanks for watching Study Hall Intro to Human Communication, which is part of the Study Hall project, a partnership between ASU and Crash Course. If you liked this video and want to keep learning with us, be sure to subscribe. You can learn more about Study Hall and the videos produced by Crash Course and ASU in the links in the description. See you next time!